feedback to your videos?
Yeah, it was interesting seeing lots of the comments. It was nice that there was lots of positive comments. I suppose it's mostly an audience that agrees with that kind of thing. But still, it was nice to see that people got some enjoyment from it.
Yeah, I think you were genuinely surprised though about the positive feedback.
I was a bit, yeah. I was just sitting in a park enjoying a smoke when you turned up, so suddenly to have my pus all over YouTube and people commenting on it was quite strange.
I suppose it's really comforting to know that there's so many other people out there who appreciate your chain of thought or where you're coming from.
Well, it is nice because I'm sure, as we all experience, most of us feel quite alone in our thinking, and but I think very few people go through this intellectual development as a group. It's normally you discover it through researching on your own, and your friends haven't followed that path. So most people's friends and families, it's a lonely intellectual pursuit at times. So it is nice to see that there's lots of other people out there that think the same. And,
it almost restores your faith in humanity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
You see so many other awakened individuals out there.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think so many of them feel, just as you said, isolated and thinking I'm a minority. Yeah. And then you see a lot of people coming together and you think, it's really encouraging.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I suppose it's still a very small amount of people. But it's good. And
well, you could just shout out Flat Earth right now, couldn't you? In the restaurant.
Don't believe the papers. I don't believe the news. 'Cause all that they serve you are opinionated views. So don't switch on my TV, 'cause all they do is lie. And I don't need no programming telling me what to buy. But I believe the truth will set you free. I believe the truth will set you free. I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in war. What are the reasons why they're for? Don't believe celebrities pretending to be what they ain't. Make poverty history, they say, both in the saints. But I believe the truth will set you free. I believe the truth will set you free.
I suppose I just got to the point where I was comfortable in my own mind what this place we're living on is, without really going into...
Is that going into what?
Well, I suppose there's lots of things you can start thinking about, like what's beyond the dome, how long has Earth been here for, what does that mean for the amount of human civilizations there's been, all sorts of stuff. So there's all sorts of interesting avenues you can start going off, because your whole basis for understanding the universe has changed.
Do you think it's making any inroads?
Pretty hard. Well, I think compared to 10, 15 years ago when you'd never saw... Well, I don't know, how long have these Flat Earth videos been there for?
I think the big surge was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I can certainly get that impression. I think Eric Dubé seemed to put stuff together that was quite convincing. He was the first Flat Earth or non-spinning ball commentator that I read that seemed to make sense. And as he says, there's lots of other people coming out with these nonsense models about what a flat Earth. I think this flat plane that rises at a certain speed, which is how we get gravity. That was one of the models. So there's all these crazy flat Earth models around, but Eric Dubay came out with the model that made sense with Antarctica, and the fact that he could point to the UN flag and other flags as being flat Earth. So he did a lot of research. So for me, it was when I first saw Eric Dubay's stuff, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, Eric Dubay, I mean, he certainly cemented me as well in flat Earth. Yeah. And it's 200 proofs. That's why I quote 200 proofs. I remember the effect it had on me when I watched it.
Yeah.
And I know there's other people who made good videos about flat Earth and relevant videos, but if you're ask me the cream of videos, I would say it's 200 proofs.
Yeah. And one thing that cemented it for me was understanding that it wasn't secular reasoning that came out with these models. It was an internal theological debate of the Catholic Church. They were all churchmen. Copernicus, raised by a Bishop of Rome. Galileo, Rome through and through.
Jesuits as well, right?
Jesuits, yeah. A guy called Giordano Bruno, I think, who I once stated was a hero of mine. He was actually killed for saying that there were planets up there. So, as well as the scientific evidence, it was when I could put it into an historical context and actually understand that it wasn't scientists, it was a church debate about making the sun. I mean, you look at the Jesuits' flag and see there's a sun, it all makes sense. I mean, you see a lot of the clothes and symbols that the Catholic Church use, a lot of it has the sun. So it's about making the sun the centre of the universe. You know, the Catholic Church changed the day of Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. You know, it was all about the sun. So it was a theological debate, not secular reasoning.
And how much the sun is embedded in a lot of murals and statues and fronts of buildings.
Yeah. And another aspect of that is, in Spanish, light is la luz, Lucifer. And when you start seeing Catholic, you know, they have some chants where they chant Lucifer, and you have the Lucifer Observatory. So when you start seeing it, they're worshippers of sun, of the light, and Lucifer means the morning dawn, the coming light. So Lucifer, in some sense, is the sun. It's the new light coming. So that it all ties in together. That the scientific evidence did make a huge impression on me, of course, but it was when I could put it into historical context and really see and just understand it. You know, people say knowledge is power, which doesn't really mean much, but knowledge is a competitive advantage, and it makes absolute sense in every arena that humans will try and keep the truth of things to themselves, and it's been done by priesthoods throughout history. They've had a certain knowledge and they've tried to, even the Bible, you know, the Catholic Church didn't want people to be able to read the Bible. It was all in Latin. They wanted to keep that knowledge to themselves. So it's perfectly reasonable based on what's happened historically that people want to keep knowledge to themselves, because it's a huge competitive advantage, including your invention or anything, you know, people want to keep it to themselves.
And interestingly, the masses aren't open to Latin even today.
Yeah.
It's just a privileged elite society.
Yeah. And it was only because of the Protestant Reformation that the Bible people were actually able to connect directly to the Bible. So though I'm not a Christian, I have a lot of respect for Protestant pushing, because you can't argue with people wanting to have a direct relationship with whatever their spiritual leanings are, rather than it going through some superior human being, which the Catholic Church is. And, you know, I never realised that Protestant meant protest until a few years ago. I didn't realise it was a reaction against a spiritual monarchy and the corruption. So the fact, when you look at the history of the Catholic Church and the corruption in Rome, then people shouldn't be surprised that they've come out with some absolute nonsense and tried to... But we must also realise that they didn't know back then. You know, no one had left the earth, no one had gone beyond the ice. So it was an intellectual debate, and it was only in the 40s and 50s that people were actually able to go up and take a peek.
Yeah, and that's when I thought, we better come up with something to convince the masses that it's round as a globe.
Yeah.
Entering NASA.
And as we discussed before, when something new like that comes along and you have a group of people that are in charge of Earth, the last thing they want is a new idea like that, because it would change everything. Yeah. So it makes total sense that A, the Catholic Church would come up with this idea, and then B, once it was found that actually the Earth isn't, we're not on a spinning ball, that they would just be quiet.
Right, so we said about 2 or 3 years ago most people started waking up to... When did you first realise that?
2 years ago, and I had like us all, had a big, once you realise, bloody hell, and it wakens you up to the level of control on Earth as well, you know. And
what was your defining moment that made you look into it?
That made me look into it, made me realise that we weren't on a spinning ball.
Yeah, what made you even look towards the idea that you might not be living on a spinning ball?
Well, in about 2007, 2008, I discovered the horror of central banking, and that started a lot of, and the control of central banking, and the fact that democracy, as I used to believe it, as being just not perfect but a good form of freedom, was anything but. People just don't understand the power that you get through monopolising money. It is, in many ways, the most effective form of dictatorship, because it's using a ledger system. Most people don't know how to use ledgers. Most people aren't bookkeepers. They just don't understand that that's all it is, a ledger system that we all have to use. So once I understood that, then I started opening my mind to a lot of things, to power, to looking into the Council on Foreign Relations and the CIA, MI5, Mossad, everything. And I saw flat Earth videos and just thought they were crazy. Because I still think a lot of conspiracy things are crazy. I really do. And there's lots of crazy stuff out there. Things like, I've never seen any evidence that there's reptiles, for example.
No.
To me, it's just it's human apes controlling each other. Yeah. And I always like the idea of space and aliens, or the potential of aliens. So there was a lot of barriers to overcome. So I saw the videos because I was just doing general research, and I wanted to explore other areas, but it took me a while to go back and actually really sit down and think about it. I remember being down in Port Patrick and being able to see across to Ireland and thinking, curvature of the earth, that you shouldn't be able to see Port Patrick.
But you weren't the way, you just seen them around, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I even spoke to some friends about it who said, well, the light's probably bending around Earth. The light's bending around Earth? Is that your genuine explanation for it?
Like, I thought at school they'd drummed that out of you so you wouldn't trust your senses and you'd believe what you're being saying.
Yeah, well, that is the problem. So it was a slow process to me, and I did go through a period of being really enthused about it and thinking this is the key. But then I moved on to other I'm trying to develop software and learn the guitar, so I kind of moved on to other things. But I can completely understand when people say this could be the key to unlocking the truth of that we're very controlled, because it's not whether Rothschild did this or the Catholic Church did this 200 years ago, 50 years ago. It's here and now, wherever any human being is, they can say, why is there no movement of air if I'm on a spinning ball? And one thing I thought of recently, if you've got your Earth and you've got air surrounding it, now air is almost like a super liquid. There's no way it could be spinning around. To think that the Earth could be spinning around and air spinning around with it to give us the impression of a completely still day is as crazy as thinking Earth's surrounded by 3 miles of water all around and it's spinning around and there's no movement in the water.
Yeah.
To think that there's no movement in the air when it's all spinning around is as crazy thinking that we're surrounded by 3 miles of water spinning around and there's not even an eddy in the water.
Yeah.
Not even
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, and it's almost insults your intelligence, but then you didn't have that because you were thinking at 5, did you?
No, you don't.
And that's why they get them young, and the phrase is, because we just believe it, don't we?
It does make you wonder about education.
Yeah.
Should people have a lot of their education in their 20s and 30s when they can critically think?
Absolutely. Or should school not start with, okay, we're not going to teach you anything apart from critical thinking and how to think for yourself.
Yeah.
And how to discern what's true and what's false,
yeah.
and to challenge what's being told as a truth but there's no evidence behind it.
Yeah.
Let's develop your critical thinking and to challenge it.
Yeah.
And then maybe teach you maths and English and history.
Yeah. Although I personally think good reading and writing and a good basis in arithmetic when you're young, because that's not subjective. History is totally subjective, but reading, writing, arithmetic when you're young,
fair enough,
and teach them how to critically think, and then maybe the other things when you're a bit older. If I had a child and my child had that education, I'd be very happy. Whereas you get kids leaving today, the grammar's terrible, their basic arithmetic's terrible, the educational standards are very, very poor. Focus on the important things and teach them how to critically think.
Some people say that's deliberate though, to lower the standards of education.
Well, if you're a group of people in charge and you want your kids to do well, and the way your kids do well is by everyone else not being educated, so it does make sense to...
And
I think the state is about control. The state doesn't want independent.
No.
That's how collectives don't work that way. Collectives are about people believing in the collective above everything else. They don't want people to critically think about that.
Well, look at your brushes with authority in the past, then that's to do with you being an independent critical thinker.
Yeah.
being a problem to the state.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. So yeah, it's an interesting one about education. I haven't thought.
And is it education when you think about it? I mean, is it really an education?
No, it's opinion. History is just an opinion. You know, there are historical facts like that castle's there and that bridge is there, but the machinations of humans within that is all opinion. We're just relying on people telling us.
Written by people who weren't there.
Yes, a lot of the time, yeah.
Word of mouth after 100 years or something. Or thousands of years.
I do find it interesting that a lot of these old documents, including the Bible, has the dome and the fact there's water beyond it. Now, how did people know that? If there was a more advanced civilization before the Ice Age, then maybe they got up there and maybe that knowledge is just passed down. So the Bible, it's not God telling us. I just think humans probably had an advanced civilization in the past, got that knowledge, and that knowledge is just passed down.
I mean, like I've seen reports of Stonehenge not being as old as they tell us.
Yeah, there's videos of them building it in the 50s.
Yeah. Some are saying, oh, that's them repairing it. But to me, it looked like extensive trench building, like putting a stone in it.
It did.
First time.
The Stonehenge, it's not actually that impressive, Stonehenge, isn't it? So,
I think the stones up in Orkney and Shetland are more impressive.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually older, apparently.
Yeah, are they?
Guess me repeating history.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh, who knows? We just don't. I've actually been reading a lot about, you know, if humans have been around a lot longer than we think, the mountains and the hills won't have changed, so where all these castles and forts are, it does look as though they've been built on top of older structures. I mean, you look at the Incas in South America, when they rebuilt these beautiful, and they're called polygonal, which means all the stones are different sizes, and they're not built with cement or whatever it was then. They're just these pieces put together, and it was always assumed that the Incas built them, but you can see when the Incas repaired them, it wasn't that level of craft. So it does seem as though there have been civilizations in the past that we just assume that they've come from, say, the Incas. And there are these huge megaliths in Russia and all over the place. It was fascinating. It was when I could put it into historical context and really see and just understand it. You know, people say knowledge is power, which doesn't really mean much, but knowledge is a competitive advantage.